to this new guide that I made. It is Final Fantasy XI for a new player, and even a returning player this might be really helpful for if you played in the past. Right now, the current state of Final Fantasy XI is definitely highly, you want to use Windower. It will highly intensify your gameplay. You're going to want to edit all your combat logs, your configuration, your windows. You can actually have a second window in game available that allows you to edit further for my window log. I like to keep on one side, I like to have the chat, and one side I like to have the combat. There are advanced windower type things that you can get, such as like fast CS. Here, let me open up windower again, just to do like a cool little representation of windower. Let's see, is it showing? No. Anyway, windower, what it'll show is they have add-ons and they have plugins that you can have and you can install through them. You actually have to load them. They don't show up without you loading them. So this is an example, right? Parse is the name of one of them. Let's say the next one would be fast CS. So that would load fast CS, right? Fast cutscenes. Then this would unload fast cutscenes, last cutscenes, and that would unload it, right? So that's exactly what it'd do. You need to enable this, yada yada. All right, so moving forward with my guide, I would say a controller and a keyboard. There are pros and cons of which I use a keyboard personally, but using an analog stick and to be able to move around with the controller is really helpful. Making macros, I'm just kind of going over everything just smoothly since I have it all nice and packed here. If you're in the stream, it's going to be kind of like a double take. Controlling your character in combat and out of combat, F1 targets and U, F2 through F6 targets party, and F8 targets centered in PC. Those are really helpful commands on a keyboard. Slash commands are extremely helpful, such as like slash assist, slash assist, which would be like if you're in a party and somebody's engaging stuff really quickly and you're like, oh, I need to attack what they're attacking, and their name's like Doug, you just do slash assist Doug and then hit enter, and then it would automatically target whatever they're targeting. You can also do slash check Doug, right? Slash player command add Doug, slash ally command add Doug, right? Those are very useful commands. Going to a command list such as typing slash question mark, it'll pull up in your chat log like all the possible ones. It's not all of them, but it's a good amount. Here are some like quick commands that can help you with macros as a new player, like slash job ability berserk. Right, these are some simple ones that you can use. Looking up and understanding how macros work, making some macros for whatever job you're using. If you're like me, as a monk, I like having my weapon skill combo on a macro bar instead of going, and so I can hit it as soon as my technique points, my TP is ready. I don't like hitting Control J and then hitting like enter for that. It just takes far too long. So going over character creation and jobs, there you could pick any race you want right now. It doesn't matter. For jobs right now, the game is just so busted. Like for new players, picking a certain job, you're gonna hit a wall, and it's just gonna be so difficult for you. So for me, I'm right now as a new player. On one hand, there's the I want to have fun. Pick anything you want, right? Pick anything you want. On the other hand, which is I want to be good, and I want to make sure that when I play through the game, I don't have this like stale, like, oh, I can't get past this part, I need help, I can't get past this part. So then if that's being said and you want to have that, picking Monk is probably your best bet as a new player. Picking Monk, punching your way through the goddamn game. You can solo everything from that you'll ever have trouble with. And if you hit like situations where it's tough, you can go gear up a little bit. I'll go into like what might be helpful for gearing further on. So now that you picked monk and you're playing through the game, great, you're soloing everything. But you wanted to pick a job that you don't necessarily have to put on a back burner, right? Monk, maybe you'll put on a back burner because you're finding it difficult to find like parties, or some of the content is just like, oh, I hit a wall, I can't actually beat Karen to finally farm my Aeonic weapon, which is like one of your ultimate weapons, right? Summoner, for me, that's my top choice for that. For a job that you could pick, gear up along the way, and never hit a wall. You could do just about everything in the game with a summoner that would enable you to get to where it is that you want to go, right? There might be some situations where it's like, maybe I wanted to play another job, such as like farming a specific content that doesn't need a summoner, but that you might find that to be really rare. A lot of people don't pick summoner maybe in like a certain situation, but you can still put your summoner there, right? A monk, a lot of melee classes will be up close, so if you're fighting something that has a lot of AoE, you might have a hard time. You could, moving past this, support role, Geo would be my next pick, right? Just as far as like you being able to get into content that's really hard and people not really batting too much of an eye at your Geomancer and being like, oh, hey, I'm kind of new, but here I have decent gear, I'm a Geomancer. They'd be like, oh, it's fine, we'll do a harder difficulty, so we got this, we got the tanks and stuff for it. Whereas like if you were like a summoner and you're in that situation, or a warrior or a paladin or a bard that didn't have like the proper support role songs, maybe didn't have enough songs for the group, maybe they wanted you to be doing DD at the same time, then you might be having a hard time. If your white mage isn't geared enough to have enough refresh to be able, or enough cure, or have like a specific weapon that allows them to be able to use their removals at a party level versus a single level, then you're going to have a problem. But Geomancer doesn't run into that issue as much as those other jobs do. So picking a Geomancer would be my second pick. And every DPS is basically a savage. It is doing Savage Blade, and Savage Blade is a weapon skill that you unlock. I think I put it in here. Conjure Sword gives all sword users Savage Blade. I'm not gonna lie, every DPS is basically doing Savage Blade. On one hand I can count I don't even gonna say one hand. If I'm doing an event and I'm my monk, right, and you're punching things because you decided that you want to stick with monk and you're doing some really high numbers, I've had people doing like Savage Blade, like weapon skills, which a lot of drops, Corsairs, Bards, Thieves, Blue Mages, Dragoons, they all will end up using Savage Blade at a mid level, right? At mid level, right? So once you get to like higher level and you've got your Aeonics and your higher weapon skills, you might not be using Savage Blade, but the chances are you're gonna end up in a party and it's like, wait, that was a blue mage that was in my party? He didn't look like a blue mage. All he was doing, he'd like maybe like one or two buffs at the start, but then afterwards he was just doing Savage Blade the whole time. Thief was like the same way. I've had Corsair will end up like doing their buffs and then they'll just go Savage Blade. So it's like the game, every DPS is basically doing that, and it's kind of disgusting. So if you don't want to be stuck in that little category of like what makes my job almost any different than like say this job, or a monk is gonna look unique in its way, right? Monk that can't use Savage Blade. So jobs, kind of just like moving on from there, you're gonna find a lot of jobs that it's gonna be difficult to, as a new player, to, once you get to a point where you're doing content with people, that you're gonna hit a lot of walls, and then maybe you're gonna want to be upset that you played that job, and you can easily get past it, right? But not as easily as certain other jobs might have it. So it's not like it's a bad pick, right? Just you're gonna have easier picks. Is what, from my perspective, from what I've had to the game. So how to get started as a new player. Say like the number one thing, honestly, this game is very social. You're gonna have your community players. You're gonna have your link shell. You can find a link shell concierge. They are near, if you're in Bastock, they're in the Bastock mines near the Mog House. You can find them. Just Google link shell concierge and find somebody, or yell. Yell goes across all zones. Fast traveling, again, you're gonna want fast traveling. Home point crystals, you can travel to any home point crystal. You can survival warps or little tomes that are located in certain places. Just when you open up your map, you'll see a little book. Go ahead and visit the book. Click on the book. It'll give you options. Right. Unity warping. That's something that you gain access to once you have your Unity NPC. Once you finally selected a Unity to join. Your warp ring. That's something that you get from gate guards that can be used infinitely. Right. It has a slight recharge, I believe, of like 8 minutes or 10 minutes. It's really short. It allows for fast traveling around the game. And when you get to a certain point, you can also get teleport dim ring. And I believe that it's through the Moogle. NPC. That has a recharge too, so it'll teleport you to a specific location, which access Ryzen Jima, and that's through ROV. So when you're questing as a new player, I'd say the most important thing with questing is having fun in the game, right? So with having fun, you're gonna want to play the game to how it was naturally intended, right? So follow through the tutorial. It'll walk you through a lot of stuff. It will walk you through all of the basic content that you can do. You have beginner content, and the tutorial for beginner is going to allow you to unlock access to sub jobs. It's going to walk you through getting trusts, and trusts are something that allows you to summon party members that are NPCs to your group that actually have jobs. You can dismiss your trusts, and you can resummon your trusts at any time outside of combat if you don't have aggro. And by doing so, it has a small recharge window, but it'll fully heal them and it'll fully recover their MP. So if your white mage ran out of MP, just dismiss them and resummon them back, and you're good to go. And just kind of having fun through all that. And if you're looking to like have a little something more challenging, once you get to a certain point, you can go to content, which content will allow you to access things like Omen, which is one of the more difficult challenges of the game right now with some of the bosses that you can have. So now that you have kind of grasped that general idea, moving on to the value of Records of Eminence. I'm just going to walk through this as fast as I can. The Records of Eminence is objectives that you can partake in, right? And that's where Records of Eminence is actually just the quests, all the quests that are available that you can trigger and you can get rewards for. Questing is found under Records of Eminence. You get rewards of sparks, acolytes, as well as other items that may not be as good. Like you'll get some crystals or some like beads or things. Just you'll get small like rewards through the Records of Eminence. Nothing really noteworthy. Now that you've kind of grasped this idea of what ROE is and that you get rewards from it, you can use it to get gear up to level 60, and then 99, which it's eye level 113 or 112, 115, 109. It's 109. It's really not that good, but this is about where you might be starting to kind of get the grasp of the game. You've been following the tutorial. You've went through the whole starter zones. You started doing missions for the starter area. You're like maybe 8 hours to 10 hours into the game, and you're like, what do I do next? Follow the Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. Rhapsodies of Vana'diel can also be found under tutorial, and once you start walking through this, that's where basically the game starts, right? You're following Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, so it's going to be like if you Wikipedia and you look up the quests for whatever one you're on, it's going to say that you're not going to want to proceed with this mission until you like are at a certain point with the Rise of Zillar or Chains of Ramothia. I believe it goes Chains of Ramothia and then Rise of Zillar. With Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, for some reason, it doesn't necessarily go in order of expansions versus like the order of operations that it makes you go through is kind of like backwards compared to when the expansions were released. That's basically in just the game. You just start going through Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. You'll hit, by the time you finish Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, you are like, congrats, you're at the end game. Like, once you are complete, or I would say congrats, you finish the game. Like, Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, once it's completed, you are technically done. You can go do all the other missions, you can do all the content and everything else has to offer, but you now have access to the end game, in which you don't necessarily need to do all of the other things. They are optional. You don't need to. I'm going to say this again. You don't need to go do the complete everything else. If that's making you feel better, good. The reason you don't need to is because if you're missing certain things that these other things allow you to have access to, then that's fine. Your power as a character is going to be derived from a lot of the items that you can get from just having Rhapsodies of Vana'diel completed. If somebody's like looking at you and they're like, oh, I noticed that you don't have like, let's say your artifact. So COP, as a new player, this is where the game sort of hits meta, right? So this is where it becomes, you're no longer a new player. You finish this, now you're in the amateur. You're now like available to broaden your character from being a new character to now, right, moving forward from there. I suppose I could go in a little bit of detail. Let's say Genkai level cap increase, and reputation and inventory space and gear after level 60. These all, as a new character, are really important. These are things that you're going to want to be able to walk through, right? Reputation and inventory space. There's a just Google Final Fantasy XI inventory space. It costs about 1 mil max to max inventory. You can buy everything from the auction house. Or wait for a campaign, basically. They're relatively the same price. It's 100,000 gil per each one of the pods that you can do to skip buying stuff from the auction house, but that's only available during a Malgarn campaign. Genkai, your level cap increase, that is... You'll just end up having to do this, right? The tutorial will walk you through it. Actually, no, it won't. Increase your level, right? It's gonna stop you at 60. Increase your level. Follow the quest for increasing level cap increase. Don't stop doing this. And I believe sub job is something that the tutorial will walk you through with getting as well. Gear after level 60. This is something that I feel like when I was a new player, I didn't necessarily get right away. I didn't understand it because from level 58 till 99, there's no new gear that the Sparks Fender will give you. And I was solely reliant on my trusts for just about everything. You can buy stuff from the auction house. You honestly, I would say this, don't need gear. Your trusts will tank, do everything. You can have that mentality, right? Asking for someone to help unlock oh yeah, that one's a good one right there. 1 second. So your artifact, questing. Okay, so that is something that I would recommend. After you, oh, yeah, don't need it really. Let's put this one first. You can find artifact questing, job specific equipment, artifact. Okay, so now that you've got to level 60, go do your artifact questing and get your artifact gear, because that looks dope. Whatever, you know, it's not necessarily that good, but you can upgrade it later, right? As a new player, you're going to want to have your artifact. Don't need your trust tank. We'll tank everything. Ask someone. Yeah, let's do this. As a new player, this is definitely something I would recommend for sure. I'm just removing that because that's just stupid. Ask for someone to help give you Dynamis Relic gear. Don't even give. Don't even say to help get Dynamis Relic gear. Yeah, you will find somebody that's like, hey, can somebody help me get my relic in this zone? Like, I'm looking for it. Or go into it. And if you're unsure, just like you're at the point where this is something that's on your brain, just look it up. Look up what like your relic gear for your job. So job specific. Oh my god, your relic gear, right? So after level 60, you're gonna want to do that. And I'm just gonna walk through step by step what it like for gear, getting gear, and as a new player, starting to gear up at level 99 or level 99. So getting level gear, asking someone to Dynamis gear. This is the hard part. You can probably buy stuff off the auction house, but chances are you'll be fine until level 99 with your trusts. So you'll be fine until level 99 with trusts. Gearing at level 99 as a new player. Okay. Let's take a short break here. I'm gonna drink some water for sure. Here, I thought I was just gonna be doing like a 30-minute stream going over a quick guide, and it's like I'm writing a small fucking goddamn thing. Small is huge. So a little like information is that I'm stopping playing this game, right? I used to play in the past. I came back to the game many times, but I wanted to do a guide for people that can help them understand how to easily approach the game and have fun without feeling overwhelmed by everything the game has to offer and getting stuck too many times, feeling like you're not in the right direction and you're asking for help. And then when you actually can start playing with other people, when does the game become a MMO, right? So gearing at level 99. So this is probably the wrong question to ask. Here. When do I actually start playing others? MMO, right? When the hell do you start playing with other people? Everyone's like off doing their own thing. And this correlates with gearing at level 99. I'll keep gearing after level 60 in here. So I'm going to put fresh 60. This looks dope. Fresh to 99. Let's say you got so you trade all your sparks. So this is gonna, I'm just gonna speed through really fast about how to start. Like, you just hit level 99 and you have been working on Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, you have also something to note. You don't need to level up to get to level 99 as your first job. Just work through the tutorial, you'll level up naturally, right? And if you hit level 99 and you're like, okay, I'm at a point in Rhapsodies of Vana'diel where this fight is actually really hard and my trusts are not doing very well. Okay, then come like to this little section here, or gear up. If you're a returning player and you're seeing this, like, I'll get on with this. Trade other copper vouchers to an NPC. Talk to. I'm just gonna walk through this really fast, or type through this really fast. So you're gonna talk to the NPC. And you're gonna want to exchange it for bail. You're gonna want to go to the Peacekeepers. Gear up at Peacekeepers. You're going to want to do about 30 vouchers. It's going to be about 30 vouchers. Because I think the rate is like 1,000 to 1. Something like that. The gear that you can get at the Peacekeepers Coalition is found in Adolin. And just Google it. You'll find it, right? So once you do that, you'll be at... You're currently at level 117? Okay. And this, at 117, it will allow you to just continue on until you reach a point where you really want to get level up some more. The next way to gear up is content escape. And so ambuscade in and of itself is one hell of a thing to walk through. As a new player, still, if I'm at this part you're still a new player and you are still here, you could actually get level 19 from Peacekeepers Coalition. Is it still considered 119? It's not. Okay, then I'll just erase this part. Whatever. It's the Peacekeeper Coalition Guild. It's just like whatever tiers right before ambuscade gear. Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the chat. I'm writing kind of like a guide that I'm wanting to leave. I'm quitting 11, and I wanted to write a quick guide that would help. Like I keep watching these YouTube videos. I'm like. There's been several. I'm like, these guides aren't helpful. Like, they don't give the more realistic approach to like the game as a new player. So, hoping this gives like a general perspective as a like. I think I just left the guide off with Rhapsodies of Vana'diel as a new player, kind of like it's like the greatest hits of the story. And it allows you to walk through, or it forces you to complete story missions. So it, as a new player, like with Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, it puts you through each of the expansions, each of the zones, each of the cities. That's another discussion of itself. Why quit the game? I mean, why decide to stop anything? Great idea, kind of like a farewell letter. Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to make it as I streamed a couple days ago, and it was it was not a good stream. I was walking through the zones and everything, and I was trying to give a general guide, but yeah, it was not that great. So I'm trying to approach it a little differently this stream. So yeah, and a lot of people's guides are generally do this, do that. Congrats, you finished the game. You like how I added this? If you technically finish Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, you're sort of done with the game. you sort of finished the game. You have access to Omen. You have access to Rise and Jima, all the like all the Esha zones. You can start working on your Aeonics. You have Ambuscade that you can go through and get all your +1 gear through there. But you're not necessarily going to be good. You just have access to it. Like, and it's sort of a joke. That's a ha-ha kind of a moment. But so yeah, for like a new player with, if you have any advice, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Like for gearing up. But this is personally what I feel is the most important for a new player to be able to play with other players instead of it feeling like you're locked into just doing login points. Yeah, there's so many small things in the game. Login points, Dominion points. They're doing Dominion. Login points help you with some small stuff, but as a new player, I feel like login points aren't nearly as important as. I think the most important thing is understanding the campaigns that are happening through the month. Amatro, selling Mars orbs. Yeah, there's so much to the game. It can be overwhelming, right? You just start naming things, right? Then it becomes like, as a new player trying to play the game, it's just like, it almost, you just want to tear your hair out because there's so much shit. But I'm trying to make it as most approachable in my guide as I possibly can to make it feel like you picked up the game and you're not worried. It feels pretty basic as far as a guide goes, but when do I actually start playing with others? This is the question I want to answer. I want to give to people, because I feel like when you play an MMO, you're gonna want that. You know, you're gonna want to be able to play with other players. You can spend the whole game just like jerking off and then be like, okay, so where's the content with other players as a new player? So content intense Ambuscade Volume 1. My advice for a fresh level 99 player with that just got to Ambuscade is not seeking out to join a party that's currently in progress. For a lot of my I would say successful attempts to doing this when I first started is that I was a party leader. Let's see, like, be the party leader. And this in and of itself, like, if you've never done Intense Ambuscade Volume 1 and you're the party leader, but you're new, chances are you're going to be able to fill the party with people who are really good. And this happened through my experiences. I was a monk and I was fresh 99 and I started a party and I was like, I'm looking to do very easy. I mean, why not, right? It's the first one. Let's start a party with very easy. And I had like 2 or 3 people who joined in on my party who all had like really high tier gear. And they're like, no, we're not going to do easy. Start shouting for these kind of, or shout for this kind of person. Shout for this kind of person. And I would do it, fill out the party, and then all of a sudden, I'm not doing very well, but I'm a monk, but then everybody else is kind of carrying me through like easy mode. Or possibly to the point where the people are so good that we could do normal. So making sure that you're the party leader through a lot of content enables you to have control over sort of like the fact that you're not very well geared, but the other people are there and they're well geared. Chances are that you won't be invited to go to do content if you're not well geared. But if you have that control over being the party leader, people don't want to be party leader, so you kind of win by being the party leader and then finding the people. Just know what you're doing. Know the type of roles that you want to fill. Like if you played any RPG game, you should be fine with knowing that you're going to want like a buffer and you're going to want some DPS and tanks. So freshly level 99, going into content, going into Intense Ambuscade. Understanding Ambuscade and its reward system can be difficult, so I would recommend looking into that. Yeah, and I would say Ambuscade is when you really start to play with other players for easy mode. I would say easy mode is probably the best one because a lot of people actually like farming easy mode. That's probably when you'll first start to actually play with others. And understanding a lot of NPC interaction in the game can be difficult. So I don't know where I'm getting with this thought. I'm still trying to stay on the rail here. When do you actually start playing with other players? Ambuscade Volume 1 Easy Mode, that's probably the first time you'll really start to play with other players. Odyssey is probably the second step that you're going to want to take after Ambuscade and gearing through Ambuscade. This right here, farming this might take you about a week to fully gear out one job and getting like everything that you need for that one job. Not everything, the base essentials for that one job. I know that it took me a month about the first time, and that's harsh to even think, or not a month, a week. I know it's harsh to think about too. It's like a week of gameplay, and then I got some of the base essentials for this one job so I can function in this party. Certain jobs might not benefit from this. There's a lot of jobs that do. A lot of DPS, almost every DPS class will benefit from ambuscade. Certain support classes don't necessarily benefit from it, but can. White mage doesn't necessarily benefit, other than fast cast gear, from ambuscade volume, ambuscade rewards for like their gear. I don't want to go into too much detail on what you can get from certain ones, but I'm just trying to make it as approachable as I possibly can. So if you're a new player and when you really want to start playing with other players, is doing this. This might be your next. There's a toss-up of what might be your next, like, really playing with other players. Now there's modes and stuff that other players are a part of, like Dominion, Invasion. Not very hard to try to understand to get into. I avoided. Yes, I was ambuscade right here as Akaki was going on about. This is where I was. Where is it? Savage Blade. Savage Blade is a weapon skill that you get from ambuscade. Ambuscade being one of the first things that you can get into and really start doing with people. That weapon skill is sort of the bread and butter of every mid-level DPS outside of Monk. Now, you're going to want to dip out on Savage Blade with certain jobs once you get to high tier, but this weapon skill right here is unlocked only through having the weapon, the Kaja blade, or Kaja sword, I believe it's Kaja blade, through ambuscade. That would only take 20,000 points to get, which you could end up having within a week of just kind of playing through it. Maybe like 6 hours a day. Just kind of focusing through it, and then by that time, you should be able to move on to higher, I wouldn't say higher content at all. I would say a point where you can continue with gearing through it. And this kind of bridges the gap between, do you want to gear up continuously? Is that something that you're seeking? Or are you just seeking where you can fill out the rest of your equipment with Unity gear ASAP? Yeah, there's so much details when it comes to gearing up, like a gear guide and how that works. Like Odyssey, you are able to augment your Unity gear as well, and more. Like Domain Invasion is, I would say, easier than Ambuscade, right? So if you're a new player and this just frightens the hell out of you, right? And this is like, I don't want to do that. That's scary as hell. You know, party members, I gotta figure out this. What is this? What is Ambuscade? Why does this guy keep talking about Ambuscade? It's like a dungeon challenge, or a mode. That's exactly what it is. Boss challenge mode, right? You've challenged a boss. What is the boss this month? 2 Iron Giants. What is the boss a couple months ago? Like 3 or 4 different, like, crazy, what were they called? The Sahagins. They're like the fish people. Before that, maybe you fought some, I don't know, Quadovs. Like, you just challenge. It's just like a enemy challenge mode. I should have spelled that right. Right, yeah. Ahaki is saying like it can be unlocked, right? It can be unlocked through going through job specific weapon skills are a thing. There's a list of them that you can have, right? So a white mage and a geomancer might both share hexa strike. I don't know if that one's actually a job specific weapon skill, but you have like all of the Kaja weapons which are unlocked through Ambuscade or give you access to the weapon skills that you get from the quests that you quest to be able to even use the weapon skill. So what they did is they shortcutted this, being like, okay, these weapon skills exist but are walled off to all these other jobs. If you have this weapon, you gain access to this weapon skill. Now you can use it. So a Savage Blade, which like say a Red Mage and a Paladin had exclusive rights to using, now a Blue Mage, a Thief, a Ninja, a Dragoon, a Warrior, the list, however long the list goes on. Yeah. So Ahaki is kind of like understanding that he's like, I've had it this whole time, but now I finally have access to the Savage Blade, which now I can use on my Thief, which a Thief using Savage Blade would need to have like very specific parameters set up to make it even worthy, but you wouldn't at a certain point. That's why I consider mid-tier, because using like Evisceration or something on a Thief might do more damage later on than a Savage Blade on a Thief. But the thing is, with that weapon skill, a lot of people tend to aim towards wanting to use that because of the way it fits as a new player with using a new job that you recently just hit level 99 with. It gives you this ability that allows you to finally start doing damage with a job that maybe you weren't good enough with, like a bard doing damage. You could still be a decent bard without that sword if you have daggers, but moving on. What do I actually start playing with others? For sure, as like a new player, domain invasion is something that you can do where you can have other players and you all can engage. It's like if you played World of Warcraft, you have world events, or what's a great example? So many MMOs do this. Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy 14, you can go into your fates and then you can all engage on the same mobs together. And you get the rewards bonus for once the fate has finished, and you move on to the next fate. Domain invasion is very similar, where it has a set rotation, and each domain invasion you do gives you rewards that you can further spend at NPCs. So if you're looking to get into this, it's very simple. You just have to have Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. I would recommend completing it before you get into domain invasion, because you'll have access to all the zones. And this is a lot easier than Ambuscade, as far as you do it once a day to get the currency. I'm not going to go into detail into any more than that, because there's all these things have like multiple layers. They have way more multiple layers, so augmenting gear through Odyssey, but not only that, you unlock different gear, right? What are the gear? What are they? It's like the layer upon layer starts to open up. I'd say that's the best advice I have for this as a new player, and understanding that Ambuscade is sort of the bread and butter for a new player. If you're not looking to put in 6 months to a year into playing Final Fantasy XI, just really driving in Ambuscade in these right here, Omen, Card Farm, which, let's see, this is also one more thing for playing with other players. Card farming, scale farming, what is this? Let's try to understand. This is on Rips though. So you're gonna, in order to actually upgrade your artifact, you're gonna have to have Secrets of Adolin completely finished. And Domain Invasion, you just need Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. Odyssey, all you need is basically just Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. Ambuscade, I believe it's just a certain level. It's not even like, I think you could just do it at a certain level. Card farming, Omen, this is when do I actually start playing with others? It's the same thing. Omen, there are bosses through Omen that are really challenging, but you can just go into Omen once a day. The queue times are insanely high right now on some of the popular servers because they recently nerfed Omen to where these scales can drop from any enemy versus the bosses. So people are just going in like solo, right? So if you're card farming, you're with if you're card farming or you're trying to farm for the artifact items, Omen, another thing you can do with other players. This is some of the content that I would say is a daily thing you can do. You know, you log in and you want to play with other players once you reach level 99. See if anybody wants to do this. If they don't, you could probably rope really good players into doing Omen farming and then legitimately flipping them over into Ambuscade farm. Being like, hey, you guys want to go do Ambuscade farm right after this? And they're like, sure. So then you just like, people are sometimes more interested in this than they are this. And then sometimes they're even interested in this more than they are than this. So it's like kind of like figuring out if you can get a group of people together to go do some fun stuff like that. That is sort of like in the routine of things you can do. There's so many like if you just go, where is this? Questing. I didn't put this in here. But in Records of Eminence, I probably spelled that way wrong. It's probably way wrong. Content. Go to content. Go to content and just kind of go through that list. If you're looking to do fun stuff, I'm gonna add more onto this. This later, kind of like down the line, as more of the higher tier stuff that you won't necessarily be able to do every day. Divergence. This is something that I'm not gonna go into complete detail because you can just Google and people will have high content. Everything's so broken down in some of the Wikipedia pages. Like they're so broken down. They're so broken down. If you want to know dynamics, divergence, what item level you need to be for wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 farming, I would say as a new player, wave 1, right? You can go do wave 1, and even with your new friends, you can probably maybe kill boss. You can maybe kill boss as a new player. And this is strictly for a new player. New player guide, sort of like if you're looking to get into the game. I think that's kind of where I want to wrap it up for a new player guide. Like this is a lot of stuff that if you just get kind of a grip on the game, everything else will fall into place. You know you'll be getting skill ups. You'll know all these small things. Like these are things that are no brainer to a game, right? Like hockey, Unity can be done with trust, and there are guides for each Unity. There's so many guides for all that stuff, right? I don't need to make it like going in a deep dive of Final Fantasy XI guide would be sort of insane. It'd be like domain invasion deep dive guide, beads and how critical hits work. Just domain invasion, if you've never done it before, do as much damage as you can. People say you try to do critical hits, wrong. Just do as much damage as you possibly can. As a new player, that's how you're going to do it. As a monk, all I did was just weapon skilled constantly, and I would reach 1,000 beads. Trying to do critical hits on a thief, I would never come close. Like it was just never coming close, and I had like my critical hit rate rose up the ass. Dynamic divergence. This is how you upgrade your relic gear. Like you're gonna know, like these things are gonna come naturally to you as a new player. I just wanted to make it as approachable as possible for somebody who's looking to play Final Fantasy XI without feeling too completely overwhelmed. And with that being said, I am going to leave it off there. Ahaki, so you play, huh? What job you been playing? You said you've had it, so you must have been like a red mage or a paladin with Savage Blade.